Welcome to Reading Africa. Today we're going to read about the Zulu Kingdom. The Kingdom of Zulu, sometimes referred to as the Zulu Empire or the Kingdom of Zululand, was a monarchy in southern Africa that extended along the coast of the Indian Ocean from the Tugela River in the south of the Pongola River in the north. It was established in 1887 and ended in 1897. The kingdom grew to dominate much of what is today KwaZulu-Natal and southern Africa. Shakazulu was one of the first kings of the Zulu Kingdom. He was born the illegitimate son of Senzakakona, king of the Zulus. He was born in 1787. Shakazulu assumed leadership of Zulu Kingdom and the entire Mtetwa alliance. Shaka initiated many military, social, cultural, and political reforms, forming a well-organized and centralized Zulu state. The most important reforms involved the transformation of the army through the innovative tactics and weapons and a showdown with the spiritual leaders, effectively ensuring the subservience of the Zulu church to the state. Another important reform integrated defeated clans into the Zulu on the basis of full equality, with promotions in the army and civil service becoming a matter of merit rather than due to the circumstances of birth. The alliance under this leadership survived Zwidai's first assault at the Battle of Mkhohli Hill. Within 2 years, Shaka had defeated Zwidai at the Battle of Mhlatuzi River and broken up the Ndwandwe alliance, some of whom in turn began a murderous campaign against the Nguni tribes and clans, setting in the motion what became known as the Difikane or Fekane, a mass migration of tribes fleeing the remnants of the Ndwandwe, fleeing the Zulu. The death toll has never been satisfactorily determined, but the whole region became nearly depopulated. Normal estimates for the death toll during this period ranged from 1 million to 2 million people. These numbers are, however, controversial. By 1825, Shaka had conquered an empire covering an area of around 11,500 square miles. Shaka was succeeded by Ndingane, his half-brother, who conspired with Mhlangane, another half-brother, and Mbopa and Induna to murder him in 1825. Following these assassinations, in 1828, Ndingane murdered Mhlangane and took over the throne. One of his first royal acts was to execute all his royal kin. In the years that followed, he also executed many past supporters of Shaka in order to secure his position. One exception to these purges was Mbande, another half-brother who was considered too weak to be a threat at the time. Before encountering the British, the Zulus were first confronted with the Boers in an attempt to form their own state as a protection against the British. The Boers began moving across the Orange River northwards. While travelling, they first collided with the Ndebele Kingdom and then with Ndingane's Zulu Kingdom. In October 1837, the Voortrekker, led by Piet Retief, visited Ndingane at his royal kraal to negotiate a land deal with the Voortrekkers. In November, about 1,000 Voortrekker wagons began descending the Drakensberg Mountains from the Orange Free State to what is now KwaZulu-Natal. Ndingane asked his Retief and his party to retrieve some cattle stolen from him by a local chief as part of the treaty for land for the Boers. The Retief and his men did so, returning on the 3rd of February 1838. The next day, a treaty was signed, wherein Ndingane ceded all the land south of the Tugela River to the Mshimvumbu River to the Voortrekkers. Celebrations followed. On the 6th of February, at the end of celebrations, Retief's party were invited to a dance. At the peak of the dance, Ndingane leapt to his feet and yelled, "Bambani Abatakati." Retief and his men were overpowered, taken to the nearby hill of Kwamatiwane and executed. Some allege that they were killed for withholding some of the cattle they had recovered, but it is likely that the deal was a plot to overpower the Voortrekkers. Ndingane's army then attacked and massacred a group of 250 Voortrekker men, women and children camped nearby. The remaining Voortrekkers elected a new leader Andreas Pretorius, who led a crushing attack on the Zulu forces in Dingane at the Battle of Blood River on the 6th of December 1838, when 15,000 Zulu impies attacked a group of 474 Trekker settlers led by Pretorius. Following his defeat, Dingane burned his royal household and fled north. Bande, the half-brother who had been spared from Dingane's purges, defected with 17,000 followers, and together with Pretorius and the four Trekkers, went to war with Dingane. Dingane was assassinated near the modern Swaziland border. Bande then took over rulership of the Zulu nation. Following the campaign against Dingane in 1839, the four Trekkers under Pretorius formed the Boer Republic of Natalia, south of Tugela and west of the British settlement of Port Natal. Bande and Pretorius maintained peaceful relations. However, in 1842, war broke out between the British and the Boers, resulting in British annexation of Natalia. Bande shifted his allegiance to the British and remained on good terms with them. In 1843, Bande ordered a purge of perceived dissidents within his kingdom. This resulted in numerous deaths and the fleeing of thousands of refugees into nearby areas. Many of these refugees fled with cattle. Bande began raiding the surrounding areas, culminating in the invasion of Swaziland in 1852. However, the British pressured him into withdrawing, which he did shortly. At this time, a battle for the succession broke out between two of Bande's sons, Cetshwayo and Mbuyazi, that culminated in 1856 with the Battle of Ndondagusuka, which left Mbuyazi dead. Cetshwayo then set about usurping his father's authority. When Bande died of old age in 1872, Cetshwayo took over as ruler. On December the 11th, 1878, with the intent of instigating a war with the Zulu, Sir Henry Battle Frere, on his own initiative and without the approval of the British government, presented an ultimatum to the Zulu king Cetshwayo, in terms with which he could not possibly comply, that the Zulu army be disbanded and the Zulu accept a British resident. British forces crossed the Tugela River at the end of December 1878. Initially, the British suffered a heavy defeat at the Battle of Isandlwana on the 22nd of January 1879, where the Zulu army killed more than 1,000 British soldiers in a single day. The Zulu deployment at Isandlwana showed the well-organized tactical system that had made the Zulu Kingdom successful for many decades. This constituted the worst defeat the British Army had ever suffered at the hands of a native African fighting force. The defeat prompted a redirection of the war effort, and the British, though outnumbered, began winning victories, culminating in the siege of Ulundi, the Zulu's capital city, and the subsequent defeat of the Zulu Kingdom. Cetshwayo was captured a month after his defeat and then exiled to Cape Town. The British passed rule of the Zulu Kingdom onto 13 kinglets, each with his own sub-kingdom. Conflict soon erupted between these sub-kingdoms, and in 1882, Cetshwayo was allowed to visit England. He had audiences with Queen Victoria and other famous personages before being allowed to return to Zululand to be reinstated as king. In 1883, Cetshwayo was put in place as king over a buffer reserve territory, much reduced from his original kingdom. Later that year, however, Cetshwayo was attacked at Ulundi by Zimbembu, one of the 13 kinglets. Cetshwayo was wounded and fled. Cetshwayo died in February 1884, possibly poisoned. His son, Dinuzulu, then 15, inherited the throne. Dinuzulu made a pact with the Boers of his own, promising them land in return for their aid. The Boers were led by Louis Botha. Dinuzulu and the Boers defeated Sebembu in 1884. They were granted about half of Zululand individually as farms and formed the independent Republic of Vaiend. This alarmed the British, who wanted to prevent the Boers' access to a harbour. The British then annexed Zululand in 1887. Dinuzulu became involved in later conflicts with rivals. In 1906, Dinuzulu was accused of being behind the Mbambanta rebellion. he was arrested and put on trial by the British for high treason and public violence. In 1909, he was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment on St. Helena Island. When the Union of South Africa was formed, Louis Botha became the first Prime Minister, and he arranged for his old ally Dinu Zulu to return to South Africa and live in exile on a farm in the Transvaal, where he died in 1913. Dinu Zulu's son, Solomon Dinu Zulu, was never recognized by South African authorities as the Zulu king, only a local chief, but he was increasingly regarded as king by chiefs, by political intellectuals such as Joan Dube, by ordinary Zulu people. In 1923, Solomon founded the organization Inkanda Zulu to promote his royal claims, which became moribund and then was revived in the 1970s by Mangosuthu Buthelezi, Chief Minister of the KwaZulu-Natal. In December 1951, Solomon's son Cyprian Beguzulu Solomon was officially recognized as the paramount chief of the Zulu people, but real power over ordinary Zulu people lay with South African government officials working through local chiefs who could be removed from office for failure to cooperate. KwaZulu was a Buddhistan in South Africa, intended by the apartheid government as a semi-independent homeland for the Zulu people. The capital was moved from Nongoma to Ulundu in 1980. It was late until its abolition in 1994 by Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezi of the Zulu royal family and head of the Inkanda Freedom Party. It was merged with the surrounding South African province of Natal to form the new province of KwaZulu-Natal. The name KwaZulu translates roughly as Place of Zulus, or more formally, Zululand. Contemporary Zululand, the area that was once the Zulu Kingdom, is currently part of South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal, one of the country's 9 provinces, and a large proportion of the territory is made up of wildlife reserves, and a major contributing source of income is derived from tourism. The area is known for its savanna-covered hills. It is home to WWF Black Rhinoceros introduction projects known as the Black Rhino Range Expansion Project. The Zulu royal family still fulfills many important ceremonial duties till date. This is the end of the reading of the Zulu Kingdom. Thank you for listening.